Why the Galactic Peacekeepers carry photos of human mothers for protection becomes clear when Dr. Elena Wright, armed only with kitchen chemistry and maternal determination, breaches impenetrable alien security to rescue her kidnapped twins. Using vanilla compounds and adhesive gel against advanced technology, she demonstrates why threatening human offspring triggers the most unstoppable force the Confederation has ever encountered: a mother's love. The Galactic Peacekeepers were an impressive sight in their chromium-plated uniforms and gravitic boots, striding through the corridors of the Europa outpost with the easy confidence of those who represented the supreme authority in three spiral arms of the Milky Way. Captain Kaisex, a Dravak with iridescent scales and four arms capable of operating multiple control panels simultaneously, led the inspection tour with a barely concealed air of boredom. Behind him, Specialist Terp, a slender Volnari whose translucent skin revealed the complex network of neural pathways lighting up in real-time, recorded observations in her quantum pad. "Another routine inspection," Kaisex muttered, his secondary voice box emitting the deep guttural sounds of Dravak dissatisfaction. 80 galactic cycles since Earth joined the Confederation, and still we babysit these primates. Terp's neural pathways flashed a cautionary yellow. "The Council requires quarterly assessments of all Class C species until they reach developmental maturity," she replied, her voice melodic despite the clinical nature of her words. "Humans have only had interstellar capabilities for 43 Earth years." "Primitives," Kaisex scoffed, using one of his secondary arms to adjust the gravitational field generator at his belt. Europa's reduced gravity was pleasant for humans, but annoyingly insufficient for Dravak physiology. They barely understand quantum entanglement, and their bodies are so vulnerable. The Europa outpost stretched before them, carved into the ice moon's surface with elegant efficiency, a testament to human adaptability, if nothing else. Through reinforced transparency panels, Jupiter loomed magnificent and threatening, its swirling storms visible even from 670,900 kilometers away. The outpost served as a waiting station for Earth traders and diplomats before they were permitted to travel further into Confederation space. Terp paused to observe a group of human scientists discussing something in animated tones near the hydroponics section. "They are resourceful," she noted, neural pathways shifting to thoughtful blue. "Their adaptation rate exceeds predicted models by 17.3%. Resourcefulness without wisdom is merely clever self-destruction," Kaisex replied, quoting an ancient Dravak philosopher. "They still wage territorial conflicts over arbitrary planetary divisions." "Decreasing by 32% since first contact," Terp countered. The Volnari were known for their precise memory and objectivity, qualities that sometimes irritated her superior. As they approached the diplomatic exchange hub, a spherical chamber where representatives from various species could interact in specially calibrated atmospheric conditions, a human female in a white laboratory coat approached them with a smile. Kaisex noted with distaste how humans always expose their teeth in greeting, a gesture that would signal mortal challenge on at least 7 Confederation worlds. "Captain Kaisex, Specialist Terp," the human said, bowing slightly in the Confederation manner they had been taught. "I'm Dr. Elena Wright, xenobiologist. We're honored to have you inspect our facilities." Kaisex performed the minimally required greeting gesture with his primary right hand. "We are conducting standard assessment protocols. Nothing more." Dr. Wright's smile remained fixed, though her eyes, odd water-filled orbs with colored centers, showed what Terp recognized as determination. "Of course. But while you're here, I'd love to discuss our proposal for expanded science exchange initiatives. Our twins are participating in the first Children's Cultural Exchange program on Proxima Centauri b next month. And we've developed new translation algorithms that could benefit—" "Submit through proper channels," Kaisex interrupted, already moving past her. The Council reviews all proposals quarterly, which means a 2-year wait in Earth time, Dr. Wright persisted, falling into step beside them with surprising speed for her single gravity-adapted physiology. Our research on extremophile adaptation could benefit Confederation terraforming projects. All we ask is for expanded access to... Your application will be processed according to standard procedures, Terp interjected more gently, noting the tension in the human's facial muscles. Class C species must demonstrate reliable developmental patterns before receiving expanded privileges. Dr. Wright stopped following them, her posture stiffening in what Terp recognized as frustration. The Volnari made a mental note to include this interaction in her report. Humans consistently displayed disproportionate emotional responses to bureaucratic procedures, a trait that the Council found concerning. Persistent creatures, Kaisex muttered as they continued their inspection. Always wanting more access, more technology, more exceptions to established protocols. They are the only species to advance from Stone Age to space travel in less than 10,000 years, Terp observed. Perhaps their impatience is evolutionary. All the more reason to keep them contained, Kaisex replied. Rapid development without proportional ethical advancement is precisely why the Confederation established the monitoring protocols. They completed their inspection with clinical efficiency, noting the outpost's compliance with Confederation standards and the continued expansion of human scientific initiatives. The humans had constructed impressive laboratories within Europa's ice, studying both their own solar system and attempting to reverse engineer various Confederation technologies, always just within the boundaries of what was permitted for their developmental classification. As they prepared to depart in their scout vessel, Terp compiled her observations into their routine report. Human outpost functioning within operational parameters, no significant deviations from expected developmental trajectory. Recommend continued standard monitoring. Little did she know that the next quarterly report would contain observations that would fundamentally alter the Confederation's understanding of this peculiar species called humans. 84 days later, as measured in Earth time, Captain Kaisex and Specialist Terp found themselves reviewing a most unusual report from the Proxima Centauri monitoring station. What should have been a routine cultural exchange, a carefully orchestrated event to introduce human children to the wider galactic community, had gone catastrophically wrong. Abduction, Kaisex stared at the quantum display, his scales darkening with concern. The Proximan Trading Guild abducted human offspring? Terp's neural pathways flashed urgent crimson. Not the official guild. A splinter group, biological specimen traders. They took 2 juvenile humans during the exchange program. Twins, age 7 Earth years. The report floated in holographic detail before them. 2 small humans, genetic offspring of 2 scientists stationed on Europa, had been separated from their group during a cultural exhibition. Security footage showed them being escorted away by Proximans, wearing falsified credentials, then transferred to an unmarked vessel that immediately left the system. This is problematic, Kaisex said. Understatement, evident even through his translator. The Council prohibits interference in internal species disputes, but interspecies abduction violates the primary protection statutes. Terp highlighted a detail in the report. The juveniles are offspring of Dr. Elena Wright and Dr. Samuel Wright, the xenobiologists we met during our last Europa inspection. Kaisex made a sound of recognition. The persistent female who wanted expedited access to Confederation research. The report indicates the Proximan authorities have initiated an investigation, but Terp paused, her neural pathways shifting to concerned violet. They don't consider it a priority. The trafficking of non-sentient specimens is only a regulatory violation on Proxima. Non-sentient? Kaisex's scales rippled with indignation. Humans are classified as sentient, regardless of their developmental stage. Proximan law recognizes full sentience rights only for species with proven telekinetic or telepathic capabilities, Terp reminded him. A biological and cultural bias the Council has reprimanded them for, but not yet required them to change. Captain Kysex paced the chamber, all four arms engaged in various nervous gestures. We should forward this to Central Command. The Council must issue a formal intervention request. That would take approximately 72 Earth days to process, Terp said. The offspring will likely be transported beyond tracking range by then. Kysex stopped pacing. What about the parents? Have they been informed? Yes. The report indicates they've been told that appropriate measures are being taken through diplomatic channels. There was a moment of silence as both peacekeepers contemplated the bureaucratic euphemism. In Confederation terms. Appropriate measures through diplomatic channels typically meant a formal complaint would be filed. Evidence gathered, committees convened, and resolutions passed. A process that could take years by human reckoning. We should continue monitoring the situation, Kysex finally said. Document all developments for the quarterly report. Terp nodded, but something in her neural patterns suggested discomfort. Captain, given that we personally inspected the Europa station where these offspring originated, should we perhaps take a more active role in... We follow protocols. Specialist, Kysex interrupted firmly. The Council will determine the appropriate response. Terp's skin dimmed slightly in acquiescence. Of course, Captain. Neither of them spoke what they were both thinking. By the time the Council determined an appropriate response, those human children would be long gone, possibly dissected in some illegal Proximan laboratory, or sold to collectors in the unregulated territories beyond Confederation space. What neither of them could have anticipated was that Dr. Elena Wright had no intention of waiting for appropriate diplomatic measures. It began with a small notation in the Europa security logs. Dr. Elena Wright, xenobiologist, officially requested immediate compassionate leave following the abduction of her children. Permission was granted. No suspicious activity recorded. 3 days later, a minor report came in from the Proximan Customs Authority. A research shuttle from Earth had docked for standard verification, carrying scientific equipment bound for the Joint Research Facility. The manifest listed specialized atmospheric sampling devices and geological survey equipment. Nothing unusual. 5 days after that, an automated alert triggered in the Peacekeepers system. Unauthorized access to the Proximan security network had been detected, but was quickly contained. The intrusion was traced to a random public terminal and classified as a standard hacking attempt, likely by local criminal elements. Such attempts occurred hundreds of times daily throughout Confederation space. Kysex barely glanced at these reports as they filtered through the monitoring system. They were background noise, the routine static of civilization that peacekeepers learned to filter for significant patterns. It was Terp who first noticed the connection. "Captain," she said, her neural pathways pulsing with analytical intensity. "I've identified a statistical anomaly in recent reports from the Proxima system." Kysex looked up from his primary task, reviewing applications for interstellar travel permits from promising Earth scientists. What kind of anomaly? A pattern of seemingly unrelated incidents that, when analyzed together, suggest coordinated activity. Terp's translucent fingers manipulated the holographic display, highlighting several reports. The human scientist whose offspring were abducted disappeared from Europa monitoring. A research shuttle with unusual modifications to its propulsion system arrived at Proxima. A security breach occurred in the Proxima network, focusing specifically on residential district schematics. And now, a prototype Earth vessel has been reported missing from the Joint Research Facility. Kysex's scales shifted to alert orange. "You think these are connected to the abduction?" "The statistical probability exceeds 94.7%, Terp confirmed. "And there's more. The missing prototype is an atmospheric insertion vessel designed for stealth research in gas giants. Its propulsion system allows for navigation through intense electromagnetic interference." "Like the Cygnus disturbance zone," Kysex finished. referring to the notoriously difficult-to-navigate region between Proxima's third and fourth moons, known for playing havoc with most tracking and communication systems. Precisely. And the Cygnus zone is directly adjacent to the unregulated commerce district, where illegal biological specimen trading is known to occur. Kaisex rose, all four arms activating his command interfaces. Alert Proximan security. We need to intercept this vessel before... Captain, Terp interrupted. An unusual action for a subordinate. Preliminary calculations suggest the vessel entered the Cygnus zone approximately 14 hours ago. If it maintained optimal trajectory, it would have already reached the unregulated district. Kaisex stared at her. Are you suggesting a single human female piloted an experimental craft through the Cygnus disturbance zone, a navigation challenge that defeats our best pilots, to pursue illegal biological specimen traders? The human in question has credentials in our database that we overlooked, Terp said, displaying Dr. Wright's complete file. Before becoming a xenobiologist, she served in an Earth military division specializing in high-risk extraction operations. She has extensive pilot training and combat experience in conditions of reduced visibility and electronic warfare. For the first time in his distinguished career, Captain Kaisex felt something akin to respect for a Class C species representative. Alert all Peacekeepers in the Proxima system. We need to contain this situation before it becomes a diplomatic incident. But even as he gave the order, Kaisex suspected they were already too late. On the far side of the Cygnus disturbance zone, Dr. Elena Wright had indeed accomplished the near impossible. The prototype research vessel, officially designated Earth Science Vessel 147, unofficially renamed Mama Bear in her personal log, emerged from the electromagnetic storm with only minor system damage. The stealth systems designed to withstand Jupiter's intense radiation belts had proven equally effective at masking her signature from Proximan security networks. Elena was not the same composed scientist who had greeted the Peacekeepers on Europa. Her normally neat hair was pulled back severely. Her eyes were hard with determination, and her laboratory coat had been replaced by a form-fitting flight suit with numerous specialized pockets. Around her neck hung a simple locket containing a holographic image of her twins, Aiden and Elise, their 7-year-old faces beaming with the excitement of their first off-world adventure. "Hold on, my loves," she whispered to the image. "Mom's coming." The unregulated commerce district of Proxima Centauri B was a chaotic sprawl of interconnected domes and tunnels, built into the cliff faces of a massive canyon to shield from the planet's harsh radiation cycles. It had begun as a legitimate trading post during the early colonization period, but had gradually evolved into a haven for those operating in regulatory gray areas, or outright criminal enterprises. Elena had done her research. The security breach that Peacekeepers had dismissed as random had been her systematic infiltration of Proximan records, searching for any trace of the trafficking network that had taken her children. What she found was disturbing. A well-organized operation specializing in exotic biological specimens for wealthy collectors and unregistered research facilities. They operated from a seemingly legitimate import-export business in the commercial district, but maintained processing facilities in the unregulated zone. She had also discovered something the Peacekeepers had missed. The Proximan traffickers had a technological vulnerability. Their advanced security systems and shielding technology were designed to repel standard weapons and detection systems. But they had a critical weakness. They weren't designed to defend against Earth chemistry. As a xenobiologist specializing in environmental adaptation, Elena understood the unique biochemical sensitivities of Proximan physiology. While they had evolved remarkable resistance to radiation and extreme temperatures, they had peculiar vulnerabilities to certain chemical compounds that were harmless to humans. Compounds she had brought with her. The Mama Bear slipped into a maintenance dock at the edge of the unregulated zone. its profile matching authorized service vessels, just enough to avoid immediate detection. Elena activated the craft's autonomous systems, another modification not listed in the official specifications, and prepared for the next phase of her operation. From one of her many pockets, she removed a small device that resembled an ordinary human inhaler. In reality, it was a concentrated chemical dispersal unit, containing a compound she had synthesized in her Europa laboratory, a mild sedative to humans, but producing immediate disorientation in Proximans. A second pocket yielded what looked like a simple wristwatch, but functioned as both a bioscanner, tuned to human genetic signatures, and a communicator that could penetrate most shielding. A third produced a small vial of clear liquid, a specially formulated adhesive that became incredibly sticky when exposed to the specific atmospheric composition of Proximan habitats. These were not weapons in any conventional sense. They were scientific tools, repurposed by a mother's determination and a scientist's knowledge. Low-tech solutions to high-tech problems, she murmured to herself, a phrase that had become something of a personal mantra during her military days. They'll be looking for energy signatures and standard infiltration protocols. They won't be expecting kitchen chemistry. With methodical precision, Elena completed her preparations and stepped out into the chaotic alien environment of the unregulated district. One human woman, armed with science, determination, and the most powerful force known in any galaxy, a mother's love for her children. Captain Kysex and Specialist Terp had arrived in the Proxima system aboard the fastest Peacekeeper vessel available. But even at maximum speed, the journey took 18 hours. By the time they established communication with local authorities, the situation had already escalated beyond containment. "What do you mean?" "Systems failing," Kysex demanded, his scales darkening to a dangerous crimson as he addressed the Proximan security chief on the holographic display. "Your entire northeastern quadrant security grid is offline." The Proximan, a tall, spindly being with heat-sensing pits along its elongated cranium, gestured with agitation. Unknown contaminant in the environmental systems. Security personnel experiencing severe disorientation and respiratory distress. Automated defenses malfunctioning. We suspect a coordinated terrorist attack by the Outer Rim separatists. Terp, who had been analyzing data streams from the affected area, looked up with neural pathways flashing insight blue. This is not consistent with separatist tactics. The pattern indicates a single point of origin, moving with purpose through the district. See how systems are disabled sequentially along this path? Her translucent finger traced a line through the holographic map. This isn't random destruction. It's a targeted infiltration. The Proximan security chief bristled, heat signatures flaring across its sensory pits. "Impossible. No single operative could penetrate our defenses so effectively." "What about a human operative?" Kysex asked quietly. The security chief made a dismissive gesture that translated roughly as contemptuous disbelief. "Humans. They're barely space-capable. Their physiological limitations alone would prevent effective operation in our environment without extensive support systems." Terp's neural pathways pulsed with urgent recognition. That Earth research vessel, the one reported missing, it was designed for atmospheric sampling in extreme conditions. Its life support systems would be capable of sustaining a human in Proximan environments. The security chief's dismissal turned to alarm. "You think a human is responsible for this systemic failure? But how? Our shields are designed to prevent energy weapons, and our security forces are armed with... Your defensive systems are designed to counter threats, you understand." Kysex interrupted, a new respect coloring his tone. "But humans specialize in asymmetric approaches, using indigenous materials." He turned to Terp. "Cross-reference the security failures with known locations of illegal biological trading operations." Terp's fingers danced through the holographic interface, correlating data points with remarkable speed. There is a 97.8% correlation between the system failures and the suspected routing used by the trafficking network we were investigating. The Proximan security chief stiffened. What trafficking network? We have no record of. Because you classified the abduction of sentient beings as a regulatory infraction rather than a crime. Kaisex cut in, his patience evaporating. Those human offspring were not specimens. They were children. And I believe their mother has come to retrieve them. The security chief's heat signatures pulsed with indignation. This is outrageous! One primitive female could not possibly... An alert chimed, interrupting the protest. A new holographic display showed a massive environmental system failure at a cargo processing facility in the northeastern quadrant. Automated emergency protocols had sealed the entire complex, trapping everyone inside. That facility, Terp said, highlighting it on their strategic display, is registered to Proximan Import-Export Consolidated, a company flagged in our investigation of the trafficking network. Kaisex's scales shifted to battle-ready crimson. We need to get there immediately. If the human female has indeed infiltrated that facility... Captain, Terp interrupted, her neural pathways flashing with urgent, analytical insights. I believe we may be too late to prevent her actions. But perhaps we should focus on containing the diplomatic fallout, rather than stopping her. Kaisex stared at his subordinate. Explain. The statistical probability that she has already located her offspring is 89.3%. Attempting to intervene now could escalate the situation and potentially endanger the human juveniles. Additionally, she hesitated, neural pathways shifting to an unusual pattern. My analysis suggests her actions, while outside protocol, may achieve the objective that Confederation bureaucracy would require months to address. It was perhaps the most radical suggestion Kaisex had ever heard from a Volnari, a species renowned for their adherence to established procedures. After a moment of consideration, Kaisex nodded. We will proceed to the facility, but will prioritize the safe extraction of all human individuals, rather than the apprehension of the female operative. And, he added, turning to the still sputtering Proximan security chief, we will require a full investigation into the trafficking network operating within your jurisdiction. As they prepared to depart, Kaisex found himself wondering what they would find at the cargo facility, and what exactly one determined human female was capable of when her offspring were threatened. Inside the Proximan Import-Export Consolidated Facility, chaos reigned. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the cargo processing floor as disoriented Proximan security personnel stumbled through clouds of a sweet-smelling chemical mist. The facility's advanced security systems, designed to prevent external hacking and forced entry, had been turned against themselves, sealing all exits and trapping the occupants inside. Dr. Elena Wright moved through this chaos like a ghost, her movements precise and deliberate. The environmental suit she wore, modified from the research vessel's equipment, included a rebreather that filtered out the chemical compound she had introduced into the ventilation system. To the Proximans, the compound induced a state of profound confusion without causing permanent harm. To her, it was no more dangerous than mild anesthetic gas. Her wrist scanner pulsed with increasing frequency as she approached a sealed door marked with Proximan symbols for specimen processing. The genetic signatures of her children were strong now. They were close. The door's security system was sophisticated, but Elena had prepared for this. From another of her many pockets, she withdrew a small device that resembled an ordinary smartphone. In reality, it was a customized interface designed to mimic authorized access patterns rather than hack them directly, another asymmetrical approach that Proximan security hadn't anticipated. As the door slid open, she was confronted by a Proximan technician in protective gear that shielded them from her chemical countermeasures. The alien froze in surprise at the sight of a human, then reached for a weapon. Elena was faster. She raised what appeared to be a simple aerosol can and sprayed a clear liquid directly at the Proximan's feet. The substance reacted instantly with the facility's flooring material, expanding into an incredibly adhesive gel that immobilized the technician mid-stride. "Don't struggle," she advised calmly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. "The compound dissolves naturally after 30 minutes. You'll be free then." The Proximan made a series of high-pitched clicks that her translator rendered as threats and demands. Elena ignored them, moving past the immobilized alien into a laboratory space filled with containment units. Her scanner led her to a reinforced transparent enclosure where two small forms huddled together, her twins, Aiden and Elise, their faces tear-streaked but physically unharmed. "Mom!" they cried in unison as they saw her, rushing to the transparent barrier. "Stand back, sweethearts," Elena instructed, keeping her voice calm and reassuring despite the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. She removed another device from her pocket, this one resembling a penlight, and traced it around the edge of the enclosure's access panel. The device emitted a compound that reacted with the locking mechanism's metallic components, causing a controlled thermal expansion that disengaged the locks without triggering alarms. As the barrier slid open, her children launched themselves into her arms with such force that she nearly lost her balance. For one precious moment, she allowed herself to hold them tightly, breathing in their familiar scent beneath the sterile Proximan atmosphere. "I knew you'd come," Aiden whispered, his small arms wrapped around her neck. "They said no one could find us here," Elise added, her voice muffled against Elena's shoulder. "But I told them my mom can find anything." "That's right," Elena confirmed, gently disentangling herself to look at them properly, checking for injuries. "And now we're going home, but we need to be very quiet and follow my instructions exactly. Can you do that?" Both children nodded solemnly, their expressions shifting from relief to determination in a way that reminded Elena forcefully of herself. She quickly outfitted them with miniature rebreathers, designed for emergency use on the research vessel, but perfect for their current situation. "These will protect you from the special air I've created. Stay close to me, hold hands, and if I say down, you both drop to the floor immediately. Understand?" "Yes, Mom," they replied in unison, their small faces serious above the rebreathers. "Good." She took Elise's hand, ensuring Aiden was firmly connected to his sister, and turned toward the exit. "Let's go meet some very surprised peacekeepers." They had made it halfway across the processing floor, navigating through the disoriented Proximans, when the facility's main entrance exploded inward with a thunderous crash. Through the swirling mist and debris stepped the imposing figure of Captain Kysex, his four arms wielding various peacekeeper implements, with Specialist Terp close behind him. Elena pulled her children behind a cargo container, one finger to her lips in the universal signal for silence. She had anticipated peacekeeper intervention, but not quite this quickly. New calculations raced through her mind, assessing escape routes and potential distractions. Before she could implement any of these plans, Terp's melodic voice echoed through the facility's communication system. "Dr. Elena Wright, this is Specialist Terp of the Galactic Peacekeepers. We are not here to impede your extraction mission. We are here to ensure your safe passage back to Confederation space with your offspring." Elena remained hidden, suspicious of the unexpected offer. It could easily be a trap. Peacekeepers were notorious for their strict adherence to protocols, and what she had done violated dozens of Confederation regulations. "I give you my word as a peacekeeper," came Captain Kysex's deeper voice, his translator struggling to convey the formal oath-taking cadence of Dravak culture. "No harm will come to you or your offspring under our protection. The trafficking operation has been exposed, and those responsible will face Confederation justice." After a moment of consideration, Elena stepped out from behind the container, her children still safely behind her. I accept your offer of protection, Captain, but we will be returning to Europa on my vessel. I don't trust Proximan authorities to honor Confederation jurisdiction. Kaisex's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a respectful blue. Your terms are acceptable, Dr. Wright. We will escort your vessel to ensure no interference. As they made their way out of the facility, stepping over immobilized Proximan security personnel and through clouds of dissipating chemical countermeasures, Terp moved beside Elena. Your methodologies were unorthodox, the Volnari observed, her neural pathways pulsing with what might have been admiration. May I inquire as to how you overcame their atmospheric shielding? Elena allowed herself a small smile. Simple kitchen chemistry. Specialist. Proximans evolved in a methane-rich environment, making them particularly sensitive to certain aldehydes that humans use in food flavoring. I synthesized a compound that mimics vanilla extract but triggers their chemoreceptors to misfire. Their shields were designed to prevent energy weapons and physical projectiles, not airborne compounds that they consider harmless food additives. Behind them, Captain Kaisex made a sound that his translator couldn't quite interpret, something between respect and alarm at the implications of such asymmetrical thinking. As they reached the exterior of the facility, now surrounded by confused Proximan authorities and stern peacekeepers, establishing a security perimeter, Elise tugged at her mother's hand and whispered a question that carried clearly in the tense atmosphere. Are we in trouble, Mom? Elena knelt to her daughter's eye level. No, sweetheart. Sometimes the rules don't work fast enough when people are in danger. So I had to bend them a little to find you. A considerable understatement, Kaisex muttered, but there was no censure in his tone. As they boarded the research vessel for the journey home, Terp noted something that would feature prominently in her report to the Confederation Council. Despite the stress of their captivity and the chaos of their rescue, the human offspring showed no signs of lasting psychological trauma. Instead, they displayed remarkable resilience, their vital signs stabilizing simply from proximity to their mother. It was an observation that would prove significant in the deliberations to come. The Proxima incident, as it came to be known in Confederation records, spread through interstellar communication channels with remarkable speed. By the time Dr. Elena Wright and her children returned safely to Europa, accompanied by their peacekeeper escort, the story had already reached the Confederation Council, albeit in various forms ranging from wildly exaggerated tales of a warrior mother single-handedly destroying an entire Proximan military installation to dry factual accounts in official peacekeeper reports. The truth, as usual, lay somewhere in between. But one fact remained consistent across all versions. A single human female, armed with nothing more lethal than scientific knowledge and maternal determination, had successfully penetrated some of the most sophisticated security systems in the Proxima sector to retrieve her offspring. In the Grand Council chamber on Confederation Central, representatives from 87 spacefaring species gathered for an emergency session to address what many were calling a diplomatic crisis. The chamber itself was a marvel of xenoarchitecture, designed to accommodate beings of wildly different physiological requirements and communication methods. Gravitational fields could be adjusted by sector, atmospheric composition varied by enclosure, and temperature zones ranged from near absolute zero to plasma-adjacent heat. High Counselor Zilvax, a Zulfian, whose crystalline body structure refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, called the session to order with a harmonious resonance that all translator systems rendered as a call for attention. We have convened this extraordinary session to address the security and diplomatic implications of the recent incident in the Proxima system. Zilvax began, crystal facets shifting to the formal configuration. Captain Kaisex and Specialist Terp of the Galactic Peacekeepers will present their direct observations. Captain Kaisex stood before the council, his scales carefully maintained in the neutral professional blue, appropriate for such proceedings. Honorable counselors, the facts are these. Criminal elements within Proxima Centauri b abducted 2 human juvenile specimens during a sanctioned cultural exchange. When Proximan authorities classified this as a mere regulatory infraction rather than a sentient rights violation, the juvenile's maternal progenitor, a scientist named Dr. Elena Wright, undertook independent action to retrieve them. A ripple of multi-species murmuring spread through the chamber. Muscovan representatives clicked their mandibles in disapproval, while LF delegates extended sensory fronds in attitudes of curiosity. This independent action, an Arcturan representative interjected, voice booming through translator systems, involved the compromise of multiple security systems, deployment of chemical agents in a populated area, and direct contravention of non-interference protocols. These are serious violations of Confederation law. With respect, Counselor, Specialist Terp responded, her neural pathways glowing steady, analytical blue. The primary violation was the abduction of sentient beings. Our investigation confirmed that Proximan authorities were negligent in their response due to biased classification of humans as subsentient specimens rather than Confederation citizens. Nonetheless, a Gethmori representative countered, its voice emerging from a swirling mist that constituted its physical form. We cannot condone individuals taking enforcement actions outside established protocols. The potential for escalation already existed in the failure to protect human offspring. Kaisex interrupted, surprising many with his defense of the human's actions. Dr. Wright's methods, while unorthodox, were precisely calculated to minimize harm. No permanent injuries were sustained by any Proximan personnel, and no weapons in the conventional sense were deployed. High Counselor Zilvax's crystalline form shifted to the configuration indicating deeper inquiry. Explain these unorthodox methods in detail, Captain. For the next hour, Kaisex and Terp presented a comprehensive analysis of Dr. Wright's infiltration techniques, from her navigation of the notoriously difficult Cygnus disturbance zone to her use of basic Earth compounds to overcome sophisticated Proximan security systems. With each revelation, the Council's reaction shifted from initial outrage at protocol violations to growing concern about the implications of human problem-solving approaches. This single female, the Dralaxian representative summarized, multiple eye stalks waving in agitation, with no specialized weapons or Confederation technology, penetrated a secure facility by exploiting food chemistry? Essentially, yes, Terp confirmed. Human bodies produce over 10,000 biochemical compounds naturally. Dr. Wright's expertise allowed her to synthesize additional compounds that Proximans had never considered potential security threats. And she accomplished this because, the representative continued, because her offspring were in danger. Kaisex stated simply. Our data indicates that human parental protection instincts, particularly maternal responses, trigger neurochemical cascades that enhance cognitive function, physical capabilities, and pain tolerance. In effect, they become temporarily more capable in all measurable metrics when their offspring are threatened. A profound silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. It was broken by the Zulfian High Counselor. I am convening a special assessment committee to evaluate these anomalies in human behavior, Zilvax announced, crystal facets shifting to decision mode. This incident suggests we may have miscategorized certain aspects of human development potential. As the session concluded, Terp approached Kaisex privately. You defended the human's actions quite passionately, Captain. That is unusual for you. Kaisex's scales rippled with complexity. I have served as a peacekeeper for 7 decades. Specialist. In that time, I have seen countless species with superior technology, greater physical strength, and more advanced cognitive frameworks. But I have never encountered a species willing to challenge an entire planetary security system with nothing but kitchen chemistry for the sake of two small offspring. It is statistically anomalous, Terp agreed. It is more than that, Kaisek said quietly. It is formidable. The Special Assessment Committee worked with uncharacteristic speed, perhaps motivated by a new appreciation for the potential urgency of human-related matters. Just 73 Earth days after the Proxima incident, High Counselor Zilvax reconvened the Confederation Council to present their findings and recommendations. After thorough analysis of human behavioral patterns, with particular focus on parental protection responses, the committee has reached several significant conclusions. Zilvax began, crystal form gleaming with formal gravity. First, we have determined that human maternal protection instincts represent an evolutionary adaptation of unprecedented intensity among Confederation species. While all sentient species protect their young, human females, and to a significant degree, human males, display neurological and physiological responses that temporarily override rational risk assessment when offspring are threatened. Holographic displays throughout the chamber showed brain scans and biochemical analyses, comparing standard human responses to those triggered by threats to their children. Second, Zilvax continued, this protection instinct extends beyond biological offspring to include all juvenile humans within their social group, suggesting a species-wide commitment to collective survival that exceeds our previous models of social cohesion. The Arcturan representative raised a limb in formal objection. High Counselor, humans regularly engage in intraspecies conflict that endangers their own juveniles. This contradicts the committee's assessment. A valid observation, Zilvax acknowledged. But the committee found that even during such conflicts, opposing human groups will frequently suspend hostilities to protect juveniles from immediate threats. Their conflicts are complex, but the protection instinct remains consistent. The holographic displays shifted to historical footage from Earth, enemies exchanging hostages, pause-fire agreements to evacuate children, even former adversaries uniting against threats to younger generations. Finally, Zilvax concluded, and perhaps most significantly, we have determined that this protection instinct, particularly in females, produces problem-solving approaches that our security models cannot reliably predict. The combination of desperation, heightened cognitive function, and willingness to employ unorthodox methodologies makes a human parent, particularly a mother, pursuing endangered offspring one of the most unpredictable variables we have encountered in Confederation space. The council chamber erupted in multi-species discussion, translator systems struggling to keep pace with the overlapping conversations. When order was finally restored, the Dralaxian representative posed the question on many minds. What are the committee's recommendations for addressing this anomaly? High Counselor Zilvax's crystalline form shifted to its most formal configuration, indicating a historic pronouncement. The committee recommends the immediate implementation of Regulation 347, requiring all peacekeepers operating in proximity to human settlements to carry visual documentation of human maternal offspring pairs as a deterrent and reminder. A reminder of what, precisely? Asked the Gethmori representative. A reminder, Kaisex interjected, rising from his observer position with scales shifted to respectful attention. That threatening human offspring initiates a response chain that no security system in the Confederation has yet proven capable of stopping. In more practical terms, Zilvax added, crystal facets catching the light in patterns of finality. It is a reminder that some boundaries should not be crossed, regardless of technological superiority or regulatory authority. The images serve as what humans might call a warning label, a simple acknowledgement that certain actions carry consequences no protocol can prevent. The regulation passed with unprecedented unanimous approval. 87 galactic cycles later. A mere blink in Confederation timekeeping, but nearly 2 human generations. Captain Kysex stood in his private quarters aboard the Peacekeeper flagship, preparing for retirement after a distinguished career. His scales had dulled slightly with age, but his posture remained proud as he packed his personal effects for the journey to his homeworld. Specialist Terp, now Commander Terp, leading her own Peacekeeper division, had come to bid farewell to her former mentor. Her neural pathways glowed with the complex blue gold of respect and fondness. "I brought you something," she said, extending a small package. "A retirement token." Kysex unwrapped it carefully, revealing a small, holographic frame containing an image he recognized immediately. Dr. Elena Wright, embracing her twins after their rescue from Proxima Centauri b. The image had become iconic throughout Confederation space, the standard visual used by Peacekeepers to fulfill Regulation 347. "The original," Terp explained. "Taken from my personal recording during the extraction. I thought you might appreciate having it." Kysex's scales shifted through multiple emotional hues before settling on a warm copper of genuine gratitude. "Thank you, Commander. I shall display it prominently in my dwelling." As Terp prepared to leave, she paused at the doorway. "You know, the Wright twins both became Confederation liaison officers. The female, Elise, has been instrumental in negotiating human participation in the Outer Rim development projects." "I know," Kysex replied. "I recommended her appointment." Terp's neural pathways flashed surprise. "You did? That is unexpected, given your initial assessment of humans as primitive." Kysex made the Dravak gesture equivalent of a shrug. "We all evolve in our thinking, Commander. Some species through millennia of gradual development. Others," he glanced at the holographic image, "through more dramatic demonstrations of potential." After Terp departed, Kysex carefully mounted the holographic frame on the wall of his quarters. The image would accompany him home, where it would eventually be displayed in a prominent location in his family dwelling. A reminder to all visitors of a lesson he had learned decades ago but never forgotten. In a universe of technological marvels, quantum entanglement, and faster-than-light travel, the most formidable force he had ever encountered was something far more ancient and elemental: a mother's love for her children. Throughout Confederation space, on thousands of Peacekeeper vessels, and at every diplomatic outpost where humans might be encountered, similar images were displayed, ranging from formal portraits to candid moments captured across human history. To non-humans, they appeared to be simple documentation of human family structures. To Peacekeepers who understood their true significance, they served as a crucial operational reminder. Some lines should never be crossed. Some instincts transcend technology. And underestimating a human mother was the last mistake any sentient being should make. That is why the Galactic Peacekeepers carry photos of human mothers for protection. Not to protect themselves from humans, but to protect themselves from becoming the kind of threat that would awaken what one Arcturan philosopher had termed the most unstoppable force yet documented in our galactic history. As Kysex's retirement vessel pulled away from the flagship, he took one last look at the holographic image, at the fierce determination in Dr. Wright's eyes as she held her children close, and found himself thinking, not for the first time, that perhaps the Confederation had been fortunate to encounter humans under peaceful circumstances. Had they met as adversaries rather than allies, he suspected the outcome might have been very different indeed.